everybody, this is Keith Gleason, host of Indie Comics Relay, creator of the Mighty Mascots, and promoter for the Plastic City Comic Con. And I'm here with another comic review. Before I get into that, just a couple reminders. Mighty Mascots number 10 is live on Indiegogo right now for another 30 days. I think it's down to about maybe 24 at this point. But yeah, you get the triple size anniversary issue still. And now that we've hit the goal, we'll probably go in demand after that. So you have plenty of time to get this book. Makes a good, post Christmas present. And the Breakfast Baller action figures, all that fun stuff. Also, over on the Plastic City Comic-Con side, registration is now open for all artists and vendors. We've had a good influx of applications already. And so I'm starting to sort through them and take payments. And so if you're looking to get into this year's show, definitely go check out PlasticCityComicCon.com and send us an application. All right. Now that we got the promo stuff out of the way, this week I am reviewing GIJoe number 1. GIJoe number 1 is put out by Skybound Image. The writer on this is Joshua Williamson. The artist on this is Tom Riley. The colorist is Jordi Belair. And the letterer is one of my favorites, Russ Wooten. So yeah, GIJoe, what else can I say? Well, let me before I get into the plot, let me read off because I don't like to do that much spoilers for you guys. I like to give you a assessment of the book without spoiling much. So here is the description off of the Skybound website. The biggest comic book launch of the decade, Conrad Hauser, codenamed Duke, has assembled a special force known as GIJoe to battle the rising power of the mysterious Cobra. In the aftermath of the Autobots and Decepticons' arrival on Earth, but the enigmatic Cobra Commander has unleashed the power of Energon like never before. Featuring many familiar faces and the first appearance of an all-new character, this is the comic that will change everything you think you know about GIJoe, and it's only half the surprises in store from the chart-topping Energon Universe Dream Team of Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley. That's a great description of the first issue. I'm going to start off right away and say that I liked it. I do think it for a first issue, there wasn't enough. If you haven't been reading all the Energon universe stuff prior to this first issue, you might be a little disappointed. There was a lot of setup, and just as the book is starting to get going at the end, it stops and you want more, that's a good sign of a first issue though, right? Great cliffhanger at the end. I do love Joshua Williamson's writing. I've been a fan. I know he's been hit and miss with some things, but he's done a lot of great writing, especially over at DC. I got to admit, I really like his Superman right now too. He just brought back Doomsday with a new twist to it as well, which is really cool. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. The one thing I do like about Joshua Williamson's writing is that he does create scenarios that are not the norm. So when you read the book, you get to this twist and you're like, oh man, but I think that's great. I love when he does that. And Doomsday, you expect, Doomsday's just going to come back and it's going to be a Superman battle. But this new twist, I won't spoil it, but this new twist he threw in, you're like, oh, weird. So, but yeah, I'd say check that out if you're a fan of Superman in DC. He's doing a great job over there. But now back to GIJoe. The one thing I do love, the Energon universe has been really good right out of the gate. I've loved everything they've done so far. The thing I like about this GIJoe number 1 specifically is that you get to see the beginnings of GIJoe when they're just a tiny team, and I think that was my favorite part about it. I mean, Duke is in it, and Colonel Hawk or General Hawk is in it as well. But the small team is it's Duke, it's Rock and Roll, it's Stalker, it's Cover Girl, Clutch, and the Baroness, which is kind of like out of left field, but it's kind of interesting. Like putting the Baroness in as part of G.I. Joe is a different twist, but I'd like to see where that's going to go. But yeah, and they're, young. They, Conrad is a Duke. There's a scene where, and this is getting the spoilers, but I won't spoil too much, but he's doubting himself basically. And it's great. The thing I like about this book a lot is they're taking that 80s stuff that you love, but they're infusing it with newer character development. This is even happening over in the Transformers and Void Rivals as well. And I think it's because they got great writers on all of these properties. But yeah, I liked it. I love seeing the beginnings of some of the vehicles. I love seeing how the G.I. Joe universe meshes with the Transformers universe and eventually the Void Rival universe. And, it's really fun just to see all this stuff come together. And by the end of the issue, they're going into their first mission, which also was set up in the previous issue of Transformers, which was kind of cool. So I think you get a nice bonus if you're reading all 3 titles and all the minis and stuff. But if you're not, it still holds on, it still holds up. Like, because I had read G.I. Joe before I read the new Transformers. So I was fine. I didn't really miss anything. But then when I read Transformers, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool how it all tied in, So you are getting those bonus Easter eggs if you collect all of it, which is kind of nice. I think that rewards the fans. And, they were talking in the back of the issue, which I thought this was very cool. Not a lot of companies do this, especially when they have a hit series on their hand. They talked about how going forward now from G.I. Joe #1, that they're going to do not as many minis and just keep the 3 core books for a while. So it's just going to be Void Rivals, Transformers, and G.I. Joe. And then also the other G.I. Joe, if you want to collect that one, which is a separate thing with the old Marvel continuity. But I thought that was really refreshing because a lot of companies now, especially Marvel's the worst at this. DC's pretty bad too. But whenever they have a hit that they weren't expecting, like say like a Deadpool book or something, all of a sudden Deadpool has to have 5 books. They just kill it. They overkill you with the thing you liked that made, and it ends up having the opposite effect. You end up hating the character in the books by the end after a few months. So I appreciate that Skybound recognizes that this stuff is popular, but they don't want to overkill you with more stuff. And I like that. I appreciate that. So Skybound, if you're watching this review, Josh, any of these writers, Daniel Warren Johnson, if you guys are watching this review, I appreciate what you're doing there. And just having like one mini here and there, if it's a special event or whatever, you're not going to, kill the fans' wallets. I appreciate that a lot. I like seeing the smaller G.I. Joe team, which is what I mentioned. It gives you a chance to get to know the core members. And as they start to add people in, I think that you get to know them individually. I think it's a lot better than the way they did in the cartoon where just people just show up and you just expected to know them. I think this is a better way to do it. I mentioned before that I didn't think a lot happened in this first issue, but if you've been following all of this stuff all along, you'll enjoy it. There's also introduction of a new character, which I think is gonna become a G.I. Joe member, and he's brand new to my knowledge, and he seems pretty cool. They had a couple pages with him in here. I like that it's with this issue especially. It seems like the Transformers stuff is starting to tie in a little more. Same thing with Void Rivals. I don't know if you're following that book, but even in the recent issue, there was the Globulus from Cobra-La was in it. So I'm like curious how all this stuff is going to come together at some point. But yeah, I like it. I really think it's a great universe. Killer cliffhanger ending on the issue 1. That'll be reason enough alone to come back. Artwork is by Tom Riley. And Tom Riley did the first Duke miniseries with Joshua Williamson, so it's the same team. And if I like his artwork, I think it's solid. He gets the action down pat. Plus with the colors by Jordy and the awesome lettering by Russ Wooten, this is a great book. So check it out. It has multiple covers. I don't know if you need that, The other thing I appreciate about this book, the number one, it's $4.99, which is typical nowadays. And it seems to be, 30, 32 pages, the normals, the full color, all that stuff. But I noticed on the cover, Skybound started to do a little bit of the Marvel corner box thing where he has like the heads of Duke, Cobra Commander, Destro, and Baroness there. It's not quite a corner box, but it's just their heads. And it looks like they're trying to get that feeling from the old Marvel books, which I thought was pretty cool. And the first issue wraparound is pretty neat. It's like the Joes on the front, and you'll see it in my video here. And on the back, it has all the Cobra guys, which, to be fair, Cobra is very small as well. They have a lot more troop soldiers, more than GIJoe, but the core members of Cobra seems to be a lot smaller, almost the same size as GIJoe, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, overall, I give this a thumbs up. I highly recommend it. I love the Inner John universe, so I'm guessing most of the books I'll review I'm going to like. And like I said, the only thing I found to be a little bit of a drag was not a lot happens in the first issue, and it kind of starts to get going as it's ending. But I didn't care. I was into it, right from the get-go. So I would say if you're not reading month to month, save up 4 or 5 of these and read them in a row, and that way you get a kind of a complete arc, so you don't have to wait for those cliffhangers to resolve. You'll have the book right there ready to go, But all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this review. As always, like, subscribe, share this video if you think somebody would like to see this review. And I also have reviews of Destro, Scarlet, all those first issue minis and stuff like that on the channel. So check that out. And then join us every Monday or every other Monday for our live streams on Monday night at 9 p.m. We talk to indie creators and we just have a blast, me, Harry, and Johnny. This coming Monday, we have the promoter for the Indie Creator Comic-Con coming on. It's going to be a great episode. We're looking forward to learning about this con that's only in its second year with a focus on indie books. So that should be really cool. So join us Monday. All right, everybody, have a great week. Most importantly, read some comics, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.